Welcome to the Home Services Success Stories podcast powered by Peakzi, the #1 AI platform for growing your home services business. I'm Julian Placino, your host, and we have another great show in store for you today because today we have Wes Carver, who is the owner at Wes Carver Electric. Wes, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing great, Julian. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you and really excited to dig into your leadership story. So let's start from the beginning. Wes, you founded Wes Carver Electric in 1999. So what originally motivated you to start the company? What was the genesis of the business?
So I think the short answer to that is just entrepreneurship. It's really just always resonated with me, kind of striking out and seeing what I could do on my own. The long answer to that would be, early on, I kind of realized that I wasn't a good fit for college, but also still wanted to have a career. So I got into the trades, fortunately, early during high school. Had some I went out, got in the field. I was in the field working about 7, 8 years. Had some frustrations with my current job, and so once I felt like I had the knowledge to be able to get out there, I had left that company that I was working for and started WCE when I was 24.
Interesting. You said that you started in the trades in high school. Now, did you come from a family of trades people, or were you receive influence from somewhere else?
I did receive influence from my parents, although they were not in the trades. They were both college educated, so that was the path that worked for them. They, I would say, had a part in helping me realize that college wasn't my thing.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I didn't come from that lineage, but I was influenced, to encourage, to seek out a career that would be, a little bit more suitable for me.
And what inspired you specifically about the trades, electrical? What kind of caught your interest?
Well, to be honest, electrical, I felt like I didn't want to get my hands that dirty like a plumber, and carpenters and everything were carrying around like a lot of heavy lumber and all that stuff. So I was like, wow, with the electrical class, that doesn't seem too hard. I get to use my head and use my hands. So just process of elimination, I guess.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned entrepreneurial. Did you start any other different businesses outside of home services before kind of settling in on this one?
I don't know that I started any businesses, but I was always hustling.
Mhm.
And I would do, as a kid, I had a lemonade stand, and I was like, well, if I'm selling lemonade, well, why can't I sell candy bars and other stuff? And I'm sure I could make a margin on that. Getting into probably my first job with a paper route. So picking up one, and then someone else would, next neighborhood over, that will become available, and then jumping on top of that. So just kind of always, hustling, I guess, like that. And yeah, so no real business. I guess they were kind of businesses along the way, but
Yeah, no, 100%. I like the inclinations. I mean, Mark Cuban always talks about like he did a paper route, he did door-to-door sales. Like those kind of early stories can kind of show the wiring of the entrepreneur. And it sounds like you've had that since the beginning.
yeah, I would say so. Again, I think I wasn't real keen on. I always kind of felt like I had my own way of doing things that I could see, envision doing things, and that didn't always line up with, what my boss wanted me to do or how he wanted me to do it at the time. And so, yeah, I think the entrepreneurship was I was willing to take the risks and put the work in order to have the freedom. So.
And what was that decision like when you were working for someone else and you were like, man, enough is enough. I'm going to go start my own thing. Was that scary? What was that? Walk me through that.
Well, I think if anyone's being honest about it, yeah, it's a little bit scary.
Mhm.
You got a couple bucks in the bank, and you're now trying to find your own work and make your own way. And I think again, I mean, if you have that mentality where you're not afraid to put in the work and get out there and hustle, you'll find ways to make that happen.
And it seems like all that risk has paid off. You've been in business now for 25 years, right?
Yes.
That's
Yeah, 20, almost 27 now.
almost 27. Well, congrats on the longevity of the business. So, in over the course, you decided to very intentionally focus on residential. So, what was that decision versus, commercial, new construction, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it kind of became a process of elimination early on. I know commercial work. Uh, you don't always have the opportunity to build the same kind of value as you do in residential. So then it kind of becomes a numbers game, and you feel like you're only as good as the number that you put in. Also, bidding on when you're bidding on work like that, and you do end up getting the contract, it's generally because you were lowest price. So it's like, great, we won, but did we really win? So it's kind of like a little bit defeating.
Mm.
I think, we went through a period of time where we were working on residential projects as a subcontractor. And the things that we didn't feel were great about that was mainly the you lose connection with the customer because now the contractor's our customer. It's not really the person whose house that we're working in. And so you kind of lose operational control of that process a little bit. And then you're inheriting the customer through the contractor. And again, I mean, everybody's got their margins that they have to hit. So, it was a little bit more difficult for us to be profitable in that area. So, about 10 years ago, we switched to 100% service and repair model for residential. This way we can just focus on one area of the trade and just execute it really well and do that consistently. So all that to say, while I feel like residential was the right path for us, we get to deal direct with our customers, and therefore we can provide that higher level of service. Our technicians also working in people's homes. You're working in people's homes. It's different than working on a commercial building. So I think our guys, though, our technicians mainly, at the end of the day, get fulfillment and purpose through getting in that house, fixing the issue, whatever the issue is. Maybe it's adding some lifestyle upgrades and things like that, some lighting or things like that. But at the end of the day, we walked into something that wasn't working. Generally, we're able to get that fixed. We're able to, get the customer, head wrapped around that solution, and everybody's happy with it at the end of the day. So I think that's really where our technicians, our residential technicians, get their fulfillment and their purpose out of that. Just getting in, fixing the thing, adding the lifestyle stuff, and just leaving the house, safer than we found it, and happy customer.
Gotcha. So we're talking about your technicians right now. So I know that your team goes through extensive background checks and ongoing screening, ongoing training. So what else do you think makes your team great and stand out as home services leaders?
I mean, I think the training is a lot of it. The training, we've also, over the last number of years, I've kind of wrapped my head around. I think in the early years, I thought about the business as we were in the electrical business. Then I would say probably in the last decade or so, my mentality and my line of thinking has shifted and saying, we're really in the people business. We just happen to do electrical work. So we focus on the people. Happy technicians and happy team generally is going to translate into happy customers, and making sure that the customer is getting taken care of the way that they need to, and just providing that level of the customer experience.
So ultimately caring for your team because they'll be caring for your customers, and there's a trickle down effect and a cultural aspect to that as well. So I think that's great. So electrical safety, of course, is a major focus of Wes Carver Electric. So tell us a little bit about why that has always been so core to your mission and the way that you conduct business.
I think that electrical safety is very important, obviously, and then oftentimes it gets overlooked because while you may have issues going on, they're not always front and center. They're not always, visual things that the customer is going to see. And just doing this for as long as that we have, we've just seen a lot of concerning issues over the years, which a lot of them are very preventable. Whether it's routine maintenance or just staying ahead of issues before they become bigger problems. But just over time, you can't help it. You see a lot of stuff. And again, I mean, a lot of it can be preventable, through that maintenance, through that monitoring of any kind of life safety equipment in the house.
So tell us a bit about that. Let's say we have some homeowners tuning in right now, and you always kind of stress the importance of educating them, because oftentimes homeowners don't think about what's happening behind their walls, right? So why are routine electrical safety checks so important?
So kind of like what we just touched on, you could have electrical issues in your house, just like you could have plumbing issues or anything else that you may not see right away. It may not be a visual indicator for that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we draw a comparison to, say, a leaky faucet, if your kitchen faucet's leaking, or you have a leak under the cabinet, you're going to see that, like, okay, we can instantly understand that that's a problem. sometimes there's parts of your electrical system that can be deteriorating over time. And a lot of that is not going to be, as front and center. You're not going to get that visual cue. So that's really why when we get into the house, we like to do just, if nothing else, just a quick 10-point safety check over some of the major areas in the house. And then that way it gives the customer an understanding of what is going on. Because it's not broke until it's broke. And, there's, again, a lot of times we can stay ahead of those issues so they don't turn into something, a greater issue down the road.
Gotcha. And you mentioned checks. So you offer both standard and premium checks. So help us understand the difference between the two and how you help customers decide which one's right for them.
Sure. Well, we do offer a 10-point complimentary safety check when we go out to the customer's home. This addresses most of the high-level life safety issues and we can complete that as a courtesy on every service call. So we'll get out there as part of our service call process. We will run through that 10-point check. That 10-point check we run through, it's more like a report card for the house. If that we've been to that customer's home multiple times, then that's something that we're going to continue to monitor if there was any areas of concern on the last visit or anything like that. If it is our first time in the house, it just gives us a good general overview of what's happening. And it also leaves the customer with that report card, I'll call it, of the condition of their electrical system. So you did mention that we do offer two different types of checks. The 10-point check, that's a basic one that we do on every call. So we use a stoplight approach with that, and it's just easy for the customer to focus on what's going on. We're just going to rank those key components and condition of green is good, yellow being an area of concern, and red would indicate that we really want to look at that and get that fixed right away. The more in-depth safety checks would be, they get a little bit more involved, and then it's just a much deeper dive into the system. That generally would be used if someone just bought a house and they want to get a little bit more intel and information on, what's going on or any concerns that may have come up previously.
Gotcha. Any stories come up to mind when you think about safety checks of how you've been able to help customers realize, oh my gosh, this is like imminent danger. You got to get this thing taken care of. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, panels, that's the heart of your electrical system. So if your panel is, say, probably the most common thing is either outdated equipment, outdated circuit breakers that are 1960s technology that haven't been touched or replaced in 40 to 50 years. That's pretty common for us to come across, and the customer really doesn't understand really the importance of that if they haven't been educated on it before. So that's really our goal with that 10-point check. In addition to that, I think a lot of times we come across water that gets into the panel, which obviously electric and water don't mix. They are not good together. And also it just degrades the system at a much more rapid rate. So there's a lot of times issues like that where the system is still functioning or functioning to a degree, but the customer hasn't noticed it yet because they haven't experienced an outage or anything. So we're able to kind of come across those issues, before they become something major, or God forbid something happens or someone gets hurt. So normally we're able to come across that stuff, but I don't know that I have any stories in particular, but those are some of the things that we would come across more regularly. Also, a lot of times the GFI receptacles, those ones with the little test button and the reset button on it, they need to be installed in anywhere where there's damp locations, anywhere where there's water nearby. So a lot of times we'll come by and they're either faulty or they are non-existent. So in either case, that's not good because now you have the potential for electricity and water to be mixing, which obviously we want to avoid.
Makes sense. And as a homeowner myself, I never even think about these things, right? So how often do you recommend homeowners do one of these checks?
So we typically do them on an annual basis. Now that doesn't always line up exactly every 12 months, but I mean, I think every 12 months or so is a good cadence for that. Get into the house, just see, and everything might have been great last year, but there's something new that's happening this year that we want to be aware of. It could be something that went from, something that was an area of concern, maybe has gotten a little bit more severe, and we're getting a little bit closer to needing to deal with that. So usually about every 12 months is a good cadence for those checks.
About 12 months. Okay, that's a good rule of thumb. So, I also know that when it comes to the whole customer experience, you were big on having your technicians, uniforms, ID badges, and the tech seal of safety. What is it you're trying to communicate to your customers by presenting yourself this way?
Really, we're always trying to work through trust, right? Earn trust. So you earn trust in drips and lose it in buckets. So we're always very cognizant of that, gaining that trust throughout the process. So that kind of starts with the reviews and how we're presenting ourselves online or in different forums. So, clean uniforms, ID badges, the tech seal of safety. The tech seal of safety is something that we have through one of our best practices groups, and that's really just ensuring that all of our technicians have been background checked, drug tested, and that we keep up on that stuff because we have technicians working in customers' homes every day, all day long. So obviously that's very important. Um, Really, we start earning trust through those online reviews, which carries over to customer service department, which is going to answer any incoming calls or online bookings. Um, just again, that especially if the customer hasn't dealt with us before, they can learn so much online and from reviews, but also we want to show them that we do what we say we're going to do. And that also is building trust along that customer journey. So we want to make sure that our ongoing communication is tight, that we're communicating well with the customer before we show up. And then obviously we're going to show up in the time window that we promised. Uh, our technicians are going to show up to the home. They have a branded company truck, clean uniform, smile. We hope they're going to enter the home. They're going to ask questions so that we understand the full impact of what's going on, what the issue is, who it's impacting, how we can solve it today for that customer.
So it comes down to trust. And of course, that's incredibly important because you're dealing with people's most sensitive and prized asset, oftentimes their homes, right? So that makes a lot of sense. So you've been in business now for 26, 27 years, and you started this thing from scratch. How many employees now to date, Wes?
We're about 20 head count right now.
20 head count right now. Okay. So that doesn't happen by accident. You know what I mean? Like 0 to 25, been around for 25 years. What do you think you have done personally to really stand out as a home services leader? What are you and Wes Carver Electric really doing right?
I think really over time, against the trusting is super important, but also, how you build that is just sticking to our core values and genuinely caring about both our team and then the customer as well. And also our reputation, because that they all feed into each other, right? So we're trying to create a win-win-win for everybody involved. And then I think the other part of it is just always standing behind our work. Uh, Things don't always go exactly right in life, right? Mistakes happen. We're all human. So I think then the difference becomes how are you handling those mistakes? Do you avoid them? Do you take accountability and make it right? So I think that's really what kind of makes the difference there. And if you don't have trust and you don't do what you say you're going to do, then I think it's hard to stay in business and grow it.
So ultimately, it is trust, but the things that we backed into was core values, taking care of your team, and always doing the right thing. So I think those are great points. Well, having been in the industry for a long time, you are, of course, also a customer of Peakzi, and this podcast is powered by Peakzi. So tell us, in your words, describing this to other home services leaders, what is Peakzi?
That is a great question, Julian. I'm going to say this. I know that you guys do a lot with AI, which I think is something that everybody is trying to figure out. It's a major disruptor right now, and we need to get it figured out. I think Peakzy does a great job with that. I'm not smart enough to understand all of those levers that you guys are pulling, but I do know that it is something that's very important for us to stay on top of. Um, so I know it has a lot to do with AI that you guys are doing, and then making sure that we're coming up as relevant in search and being able to be found. But really, our marketing manager would be the best one to ask for that. He's a lot smarter than I am, and understands this stuff a lot better.
Okay. Has your marketing manager reported any interesting features or outcomes that you'd be able to report?
Nothing's coming to mind.
Mhm.
Top of my head.
Okay. Well, as an owner and home services leader, what do you think is the importance of keeping up with this trend of AI versus, traditional methods of how people are searching for information?
I mean, it's just changing so quick.
Hmm.
And I think it's changing a lot quicker than even those of us that understand that it's happening. It's happening. It's changing even more rapidly than we can even keep up with. So, uh, really, I think just staying on top of it, just like making sure that we're managing our online reputation and we're doing the things that we need to be doing, gaining reviews and things like that. Just staying on top of all of these different chat platforms, the all the AI platforms, and just making sure that we're covering our bases. And I think that you guys do a good job of that.
Awesome. Yeah, no, 100%. It's the nature of search is changing. So let me ask you this. When pay-per-click was becoming a thing, do you remember what that was like in the early beginning?
Yes, that was confusing, but not as confusing as it is today. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
How so? How so? Explain that.
Well, I think pay-per-click has changed a lot and it continues to evolve.
Hmm.
So, I mean, there's the real estate on Google's, homepage. Once you do a search, I mean, that real estate, there's a lot of different things that are feeding into that. So I think that there's a lot of different angles, whereas before, and there's a lot more competition now than there was
Hmm.
when PPC was first coming out, and it's become a lot more expensive than it used to be as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess why I bring that up is because when I speak to other home services leaders, they often kind of they compare those two shifts, right? So back then it was Google and also like pay per click. You got to get, as a home services person, you got to understand this PPC game, right? But now everyone is making the shift to AI because that's how people are searching for information. And that's what Peakzi does. One of the things I know we're doing for you is the AI website. It's not as glamorous or like as amazing as a regular website looks like, but it is a way that it communicates to these LLMs in the way that really allows you to present who you are accurately to your customers. So that's definitely a big piece to what it is that we're doing for home services.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah. Well, we're getting ready to kind of land the plane here. We talked about a lot of different things. So looking back, and I know this is, although you've been in the industry for a long time, there's no signs of you stopping yet. So what kind of impact or legacy do you want to leave behind for your customers, your team members, for your community?
Yeah, I know when I think about that, I mean, there's a lot of things, right, that you would hope would be said. I think that knowing that we were the easiest decision for homeowners when it came down to having a trusted contractor work in their home, I think that would kind of sum it up for me. Like that when they think electrical work in their home, that they would think of us, have had a great experience in the past, or know a family member or friend that has, and just that's just an easy decision. They don't even have to think about it. So I think that would kind of encompass us building trust, doing a good job, standing behind our work, and having the best team out there.
Yeah, so it sounds like you just continuing to perpetuate your brand, your trust, and the impact that way. So I think those are all really, really great points. So, yeah, Wes, this has been really great getting to know you. Close us out, if you would, share with us your website, social media. How do folks connect with you?
Sure. WesCarverElectric.com is our website. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram. We've been a little quiet on those platforms, but uh, looking to get that presence ramped back up again. But yeah, easiest thing to do, Google us, Wes Carver Electric, WesCarverElectric.com. You can book online, and we'll can't wait to get out there and meet you and take care of your electrical needs.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to have all your contact information in the show notes, Wes. So, Wes, thank you for the time. This was really great getting to know you.
Great. Thanks, Julian. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely. And that is it for today's episode. And we'll see you next time on the next episode of the Home Services Success Stories podcast powered by Peakzi, the #1 AI platform for growing your home services business.